me this morning. This is George Daniel for the Weststar Class of 2011, the epitome of excellence in leadership class. And I'm here this morning with Mayor Houston Patrick of Weakley County. And Mayor Patrick has graciously agreed to share his leadership philosophy insights with us. And so we're looking forward to our conversation. So Mayor, let's begin. First of all, thank you for seeing me today. But what is your leadership philosophy?
Dr. George, I could express it probably by the scriptures if I'm okay in doing so.
Yes, sir.
I had two of the greatest parents in the world, and they taught us that you did not advance yourself in the world at the expense of others. That you, if you accepted a task, and my mother used to have a little saying to us, she'd say, build a major, great or small, do it well or not at all, you know. That if you got in a position of leadership and you could do it well. If you saw you couldn't, back up and acknowledge someone else and let the process go on. But really and truly, over the years, this has come down to the bottom line. My philosophy is what the Savior said to the mother of Zebedee's children, James and John. Her request was, grant that my sons might have a position on either side of you. And he said, it's not mine to give. But he that will become great, let him first become a minister or a servant. So my parents' philosophy, and they taught me, and I believe it, and the scriptures have undergirded that, is that if you take what talents God has given you and try to immerse those talents into the service of others, that if you have anything at all, it'll rise to the top. In other words, the way you purify gold is putting the fire under the cauldron, and the impurities boil off, and what you have left is what the real thing is. And so if you buy into the fact that the way to becoming great is to deny yourself and do for others, then whatever purity there is in the gold will automatically float to the top. You don't have to push it. You don't have to declare it. It'll show itself.
That is excellent. And along that line too, I think as I've studied your life, you've epitomized that leadership philosophy. And we can begin with you and Miss Maxine. And y'all have been married 50 years this coming November.
Yes,
Congratulations.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So how has a stable married life helped you develop your leadership philosophy?
Well, actually, it's like having a solid foundation under your house, so to speak, George. To me, God intended that a man have the support, as he called Eve, and helpmeet. And I have one of the best. God, by His grace, granted that I was given this young lady. She agreed to marry me, and over the years, it has been the union of the two that has been the solid foundation in my life. I have no clue as to what I might have been like out here floating on my own, maybe like a kite without a tail on it, you know, flipping in the wind. But to have a stable, intelligent, loving person as your partner doesn't mean now that we haven't had differences over the years. We always seem to have some things that we don't agree on. But by and large, the stability that a good woman brings to a man transcends just about everything else in terms of the family relationship. In other words, I buy into the thing that King Lemuel said in the 31st chapter of Proverbs, who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies. There's no way to estimate what God's design would be worth to man unless you have lived with one and have seen it. And as the time has gone along, George, we've become closer instead of further apart. And I realize now that in addition to being my loving wife, she's my best friend. Now, if you want to get mama up in the air, just get after me, and
yes, sir.
And she'll follow. I hope that was all right to say that.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's just it's hard to describe the joy of it, and I don't want to overemphasize things. You know, not every day is, of course, a day of joy and peace. But I think about what would it be like without her, and I cannot imagine myself without Miss Maxine. Whenever she comes in the house or whatever, it just lights up my whole aura, so to speak. So it's really been the stabilizing force in my life.
Well, that is a fantastic story, and we wish you all the best for the next 50 years. And another stabilizing factor in your life, too, has been your call to the ministry at the Macedonia Primitive Baptist Church. And you've been minister there for 45 years.
Yes, sir.
How has your relationship with God and the church helped frame your leadership philosophy?
Well, in the context of your question, and I don't deny that in some respects, you know, you have to be a leader to do this. You most certainly do to be pastor of a church. It's hard for me to think of myself, though, as a leader. I think of myself basically as a pastor and as a husband and as a citizen. And I believe that in all three cases, the church is the place where it's the most difficult to be a leader. Every issue just about that you do deal with in any wise whatsoever is on an emotional basis. So it's different from everything else. And one thing that I have learned that has helped me to be a leader is not to just go flying off the handle, so to speak, on every first impression. Give things time to gel and see how it's going to be, and pray about it a lot and ask God to lead in it. You know, now the Lord doesn't send him the certified letters out.
No, sir.
But he does give definite impressions in the heart about what is right and wrong. You know, the book says, with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. Well, if you ask God to lead and acknowledge the fact that you need his leadership, then he will give input, grist for the mill, that you couldn't have otherwise. And that has been the thing that's helped me to, over the years, to evolve my personal leadership feeling. That is that you try to lead by example rather than by words. And if I may use a crude analogy here, I tell my congregation that we can kick up a whole lot more dust with our feet than we can with our tongues.
Yes, sir.
So
yes, sir.
It's been the church has been the rock of our lives, both for Maxine and myself.
You know, as I've studied your life, I think one of the things I've learned is you're persistent. You're very good at persevering. And one of my favorite stories I read was about when they named you Alumnus of the Year at East Central Community College. You told the story of going there with your brother, having $5 in your pocket. Would you share that story to our viewers?
Yes, sir. I'll tell you what, if there's any such thing as being derailed from the thing, I would have been. I went a day late actually to the college. I should have been there on Sunday afternoon, but I actually didn't go till Monday morning. The old car that we were going in, my brother was taking me, broke down twice before we got up there. Well, it broke down once and then drowned out once. So I was 2 hours late getting there even to start what we call the entrance exams at that time. I didn't know what I was going to do, except I knew I was going to go to school somewhere. I just hadn't made my mind up. I was going to further an education, and I believed that if I was true to what I ought to be in that thing, that someone would help me do that. I believe that with all my heart. But my brother, after we'd had all that calamity, said, "Houston, don't stop here. This place looks more like a prison than it does like a school." But at any rate, I got out, carried my little handful of belongings into the student center and set them down and asked where was Scott Hall, which was where I was supposed to stay. I was from Scott County. Then I went over to the cafeteria where they were having the entrance exams, and the lady said, Mr. Patrick says, "You're too late. We've already started this 2 hours ago." And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I know, but I said, I came up here to go to school, and if you'll give me the papers, I'll work all through lunch, and I believe I can catch up and do this thing like it needs to be done." And so she put me in the back of the room, gave me the entrance papers, and I worked completely all the way through. And by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I had caught up with the rest of the crowd, made the entrance exams, and then I didn't know what I was going to do because I didn't have any money to keep me up there. I could stay 2 days is all I could stay with $5. And it just so happened on the second day that the good Lord was holding my hand. I went over to the administration building at noon to ask for someone to help me find a job. The place was empty. Thank goodness it was empty, because I was told later some of the people there wouldn't even have taken the time to talk to me because I had nothing in my hand to offer and no money. But it just so happens that the president of the college was a man that had been raised a whole lot like I was on a little small farm. Dr. L.O. Todd was the only person I saw coming out of his office. And so he said, "Son, can I help you?" I said, "Yes, sir. I'm trying to find someone to talk to them about getting a job here." And he said, "What can you do?" I said, "Well, sir, I was raised on a farm. I know how to do most of the things that farmers do." And I said, "I'm not afraid of any of it. I'll get on top of your house or under it. It doesn't make any difference to me. But I've come to go to school somewhere. And I'm either going to go here or I'm going somewhere else." Dr. Todd looked at me about a minute, and he kind of scratched his chin. He said, "Come on with me. I believe I have a job for you." Took me down to the head custodian. He said, "Mr. Miller, did that man quit that was sweeping the walk across the campus?" He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I believe I have your replacement." He said, "Son, can you handle this broom?" I said, "You just hand it to me and tell me when I start." So every morning at 5:30, I swept a walk that went all the way across the entire campus with this kind of a broom, sweep broom, not a push broom. And sometimes it was maybe 8 feet wide, and sometimes it was 25 or 30 feet wide. Mm-hmm. But I swept it every morning.
Wow.
And then I went and told them later on, I said, "I don't have enough work now. I can't stay up here with just that little job." So they assigned me 2 rooms in the administration building to sweep in the afternoon after classes. And I did that. And once I finished that, then I reported to the groundskeeper, and I'd pick up limbs or dig out nut grass or wash windows in the library, whatever that needed to be done. I did it And you know, I was happy doing it. I was doing what I wanted to do, so it was not a mully grub type of thing.
The good Lord was taking care of you.
That's right.
And from there you went on and earned your Bachelor of Science in Agronomy at Mississippi State, and then your Master of Science in Education at UT Martin.
Yes, sir.
So you've shown perseverance, you've shown that education is important. So the good Lord is molding you, and then for 24 years you were Register of Deeds here in Weakley County, where you became a certified public administrator.
Yes, sir.
You were president of the Registrars Association and selected Register of the Year in 2001, 2002. So you were well respected within your field of endeavor there with the Register of Deeds. Why did you feel the need to become a leader within the Register of Deeds Association?
George, I really don't ever go into an organization thinking of myself necessarily as a leader. I really had rather support someone else as a leader, but it seems like that I always get involved and start giving my opinions, and it just so happens then that other people will take that, I don't know, I suppose as evidence of concern, at least, if not leadership. And I'm usually kind of propelled into those situations. For instance, they created the position of chaplain while I was registered, and I served as the first chaplain and the only one for 12 years, in addition to these other things. So I didn't ask for any of these things. It just seems like it develops spontaneously. And I don't want that to sound overly modest, but I always seem to get involved whether I plan to or not.
Okay. But when the opportunity arises, you answer the call, and that's a great testimony in itself.
Well, you know, I just felt like that if I could do something, you know, I ought to get in there and give it a try. You know, like I say, rhetoric is one thing, and then doing things is another.
And that's a good segue into, in August 2006, you ran unopposed for county mayor. This is your second term as county mayor.
I did not run unopposed.
Okay.
Actually, I was running for the position that was held by Mr. Ron Gifford. I was requested by lots of people in the county to run. Really had not intended to run for county mayor. And I didn't know that I'd ever be back in the political arena after I retired from the registrar's office. But I had enough requests from people that wanted me to run, and I won't go into reasons for that. That's another story. But with a lot of prayer and a lot of encouragement from other folks, I finally decided, well, maybe I could do this if I would really put my heart to it. So I gave my consent to run, and then entered the race in 2006 and was successful in endeavor. And of course, the second time that I ran, I was unopposed.
Okay.
That's where the unopposed.
That's where that is. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, I remember we had several conversations at the Rotary Club, and you were very passionate about the regional airport. What is your vision for the regional airport?
George, I think it's going to be a tremendous boon. In fact, the matter is, I went to an airport board meeting last night, and the extension of the runway is basically complete. There are some things with the FAA that still have to be peaked a little bit, you know, tweaked, I guess is the word. Some minor things that need to be done, but it won't be all that long that airport will be ready for aircraft to actually begin landing on it. And the thing that I see in it, George, is that this runway is going to be the longest there is from Memphis to St. Louis. TEMA and FEMA have bought into the fact that this could be a staging area in case there was a disaster. FedEx has already said definitely that if there is a disaster, they will use it as a staging area rather than St. Louis. Now, didn't but one or two people hear this, but I was party to a conversation that the FedEx man had with Congressman Tanner when the terminal out here at Dredden was open, and he said that if things go like they thought they would, and Congressman Tanner thought, there was the possibility down the road that they might put a small air terminal. Now, he didn't say they would or whatever, he just said there's a possibility. And perhaps maybe ought not to mention that, but I think that down the road it's going to be a tremendous economic boom, along with the development of the port at Tiptonville.
Yes. Some people estimate that port may run 4,000 jobs at its peak.
I was at the groundbreaking, and the man down there that day put the number at 3,000, but I've been hearing, in fact I heard yesterday with the governor speaking over at Union City, that his people were projecting more than 3,000, about what you just mentioned.
Okay.
4,000 or so.
Well, you're a visionary as well as a hard worker, which brings us then to your civic service. I read where you were the first chairperson of United Way for Weakley County. How did that come about?
I was weak in my resistance against Jimmy Harrison and Aldred Roberts.
All right.
Those two and someone else, one of the United Way people, came to me and said, we need someone that has fairly good name recognition to head up this first campaign, because it's very critical that it get off the ground the first year. I didn't know anything about it, and I resisted their efforts to select me, but eventually I agreed to it. Didn't know what I was doing. We just wobbled around all over the place the first year, but we did manage to hold it together. And I buy into this belief that if you surround yourself with people that either know as much or more or smarter than I myself am, so to speak, then things will work out. So the idea came to me that the second year was more critical than the first. So I went and almost got on my knees to Dr. Perry at the university and begged her to take it the second year. She had been a chairperson in another county, and by the grace of God, she agreed to do it, and that's what actually got the thing on solid footing and got it started off, George. So I was the one that was sort of the litmus test, I guess, so to speak. Yeah. And it worked out, and then God gave me the smarts to go seek out someone that knew more and to get the thing involved better.
Well, that is another groundbreaking.
Yes, sir.
Now, you're also a long-time Martin Rotarian, and I've had the honor and pleasure of knowing you for several years in Rotary. And I understand you're a past president of Rotary, Martin Rotary.
Yes, sir.
And how many years have you been in Rotary?
I came in 1979.
Okay.
And I was president in 1983. I served on the board before I was president, of course, and then for several years after my year of presidency, I was on the board. And I'm also a Paul Harris Fellow. If I might pitch in one more little
yes, sir.
Item there.
Please. Yeah, I think you definitely epitomize service above self. And I appreciate you being the role model for us.
Thank you.
And I guess my last question for you would be, as we come to the end of our interview, what do you see as the most important challenges for leaders in Weakley County in the next 5 to 10 years?
We're talking about economics in this particular case.
As you wish. Whatever leadership challenges you envision.
Well, of course, we've got several things that need to be done, in my opinion. Somehow we have got to push the concept of regionalism further on, and I am really encouraged at this point to see that is really coming on strong, I think, George, and regionalism that would involve everybody on the same page, working with the university, which is one of our greatest assets, trying to help promote things that not necessarily save my county, but if it'll help your county, it'll also help mine. I think what we have to do is focus our efforts on becoming one in thought and mind and effort, and then convincing someone else away from here that this is a good place to either bring a business, or it's a good place to live, it's a good place to be educated. It's just a great area, and I think that the future is going to be better than we can imagine now. It'll take a while, but everybody just coming together on the same page. We're even talking now with 2 counties in West Kentucky trying to form some sort of an interstate alliance, and that's coming on kind of slowly. You have to deal with outside influences.
Yes, sir.
But I'm optimistic. I think with the airport, with the port coming on, with the alliances that are being formed, and from river to river, I have not found one dissenting voice in terms of we have to become regional in thought and mind and purpose and so on. I know all the mayors from one river to the next, great bunch of guys. They are basically following the same philosophy that I have, and that is that we do more together than we do individually.
Yes, sir.
And so I think there's a great time of unity coming, and I'm going to believe there's going to be some very attractive possibilities for business and industry to come. There should be a great number of auxiliary businesses or industries or whatever that would surround either this airport or the port down at Tiptonville.
Well, that is excellent. Well, this has been a fantastic interview, and I really appreciate the time and effort you spent with me today. And I really want to thank you for your service to our country in the military, as well as your service as a public servant and one of God's servants. I think you really do epitomize service above self, and that's the real mark of a leader, service above self.
Thank you, George. I appreciate so much being given the privilege to participate in this program.
Yes, sir.